We have compiled a list of 11 myths that we would like to debunk when it comes to relationships. You might laugh a little bit and you might also cry. Hey guys, welcome to the Something New Show. I'm Mind Linscombe, your host, and today it's Valentine's Day. We wanted to say happy Valentine's Day, and I brought my husband, partner, best friend, Jordan Linscombe, to join me in the studio to talk about some very fun relationship things. And actually, I hope as you listen, you can relate to some of these things. You might laugh a little bit, and you might also cry. But regardless, I think it's really important to stay honest and helpful with our relationship and telling you guys what we wish we knew many years ago. So we're almost 20 years married, and we were best friends for a few years before we got married. So it's been a long road, and we've both, been in relationships prior to getting married with each other. And I think, like I said, we can laugh a lot now looking back, but do you have anything to add to that, Jordan, before I kind of
I'm just feeling really reflective today. 19 years ago today, I got down on one knee at the Broadmoor 5-Diamond Resort here in town, and I said, "Will you marry me?" And you said yes, which I'm forever grateful for. So yeah, just reflecting a lot today as we are hitting that mark and almost to the 20-year mark.
Yes. Okay. Well, I thought as I was thinking about this episode, I was like, you know what? The funnest way to talk about some of these things is to almost debunk the things that we were told or that we believed to be true, and then realize they really weren't. And not everyone's going to agree with us, but that's fine. I think we're both okay with that.
Yeah.
We're going to just tell you what's working for us. And to be honest with you, I guess it matters that it works for us. So it may or may not work for you, but that's why I want to share, because I felt a lot of pressure in the dating and married years to have it look a certain way. And people told us advice that didn't always work for us. And so I want to debunk some of the things that you have maybe been told as well, to prove that it doesn't always have to be that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people relate to that, because in those dating years, or you're wanting to get married or newlywed, you feel all these weird expectations. And sometimes those are honestly way out of balance, or they might be spot on, but like hard to fulfill, or you might feel anxious, or these unspoken pressures. So I think a lot of people relate to that, regardless of where they're at in life. Even
if they are married and just maybe frustrated. So in no particular order, we have compiled a list of 11 myths that we would like to debunk when it comes to relationships. So the first one's a pretty easy one, and it's just that you have to find your spouse in college. And this might be a little bit more heavy on the faith-based community. It's a joke where, I went to college to get my MRS degree. And I would just say,
ring before spring.
Yeah, neither one of us really had that pressure.
No.
It's just coincidence that that's where we did meet. I think college is a natural filter for people maybe heading in the same direction. But the main advice I've told our boys is just go do what you love. And then one day you're going to look up to the left and the right and see somebody else doing that same thing beside you.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that, that's your person. Like, you're going to have a good time, and that's your person. So I think that's really what was happening to us in college. We definitely, were attracted to people and different people.
Yep.
But as we were pursuing our own individual dreams, we kept showing up in the same places. So that's that whole thought of like, pursue what you love and then look to the left and right, see who's there. So that's myth number one. Myth number two. This one is hilarious, and I'm probably stepping on some toes here, and it's the advice to always have a regularly scheduled date night. I'm laughing because the reality and the truth of how that all plays out is just hilarious. So I know it's a nice goal, but when you start having children or you're entrepreneurs and you have a business, having something regularly scheduled. And also there's two segments here, regularly scheduled and at night. I want to separate them, because regularly scheduled, let's just attack that first. Life is not
Life doesn't go by a regular schedule all the time.
It doesn't all the time. So like you might have a sick kid, or you might have a business trip, or you might have a whatever. I think what we would say to someone is make sure you're making regular time for each other, but every week can look absolutely different. It can be flipped upside down. It could be, a breakfast in one week. It could be like, oh, we're going to go on a walk in this week. Or there were some times, Jordan, where we could just go grocery shopping together because it was so chaotic. But our time to connect and talk was in the grocery store. And we're like, okay, this might just be a running errands kind of time together. But you have to, one, yes, prioritize time together. I would agree with that. But two, when it is and what night and what day and what everything, I don't think that's actually realistic. So I want to just relieve you guys of the pressure, because a lot of times too, we didn't even have money for a babysitter. So our dates would be like, put the person down for a nap and snuggle on the couch, watch a movie while we're chilling, while that baby is sleeping, so that we didn't have to pay for a babysitter. But I want people to feel the freedom today to not necessarily have to have something on the same time every week. So Sunday nights, we do a weekly meeting. I don't know if you want to talk about the calendar.
Yeah, well, right before that, I mean, I see other entrepreneur couples where they do this, supposedly, from what they're putting on Instagram, of like this night or whatever, we have date night. If they're doing it and making it happen, amazing.
Yeah, I'm proud of them.
What I've noticed is a lot of them have children that are a bit older than ours.
Yeah.
So we have like junior high down to kindergarten at the moment. So part of it is like seasonality of life.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think the bigger idea there is prioritizing each other and making space and time. Doesn't have to be this night of the week every time. Do we desire that? Would it be cool to like hit that 90% of the time? Yeah, probably. Just our real story is that isn't very realistic in these last couple of years. And so we try to do what we can. Even this year, say for 24, we're trying to do a certain morning of the week where we can have breakfast or have some time to connect, even if we're out in town together. So, with the calendar though, Sunday night, we do basically a conference room meeting. That's me and you, to look at our week ahead, or even 2 weeks, 4 weeks out, and just have good clarity on what the week will look like. And then with that, we're always looking with a note of like, okay, how do we keep prioritizing each other and ourselves so we don't get caught up and then, 21 days later, we had no time together.
Yeah. So Sunday nights every week, we look at our calendar and we decide where are we going to exercise? When is that in the week? Where are we going to have time together? Where are we going to spend time with our kids? And then where are we going to crank out some major work? Yeah. And that week looks different every single week.
The exercise dates can be really fun though too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just getting a workout in together. So the bottom line is it might not look like the same day, the same night every single week. And we want to give you the freedom that doesn't have to be that way. I also want to say that I actually dislike nighttime dates. I think I am exhausted. I have zero energy left to give. I'm really not engaged in the conversation. I'm like a zombie. So I have preferred over the years, we've edited our time together to be in the morning. So this obviously had to change when we were not able to do this when we had babies at home. But when we had kids in school, we were able to change a little bit. And this might even be before you have kids wake up in the morning. You might make time an hour before they wake up. You're still at home and you guys have coffee together in the kitchen. It does require intentionality though. I'm just saying it might not be the best time for you to go out at night. Mm-hmm. If you're like me, where you're spent, choose a morning, choose a time that works. Okay. Myth number 3 is never go to bed angry. Now, this is something that was said to us in marriage counseling. It is biblical to not let the sun go down upon your wrath. This is an actual important thing to live by. So do we try to do it? Yes, we try. But is there ever a time where we're so exhausted that we can't even get through the topic because we're so frustrated, we're tired, we've been working, our kids kept us up late, and we're like, wow, this is not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. So the decision is not so much that we feel resolved when we go to bed, but I feel like the decision is we're resolved enough to make sure we come to a conclusion on this. We're resolved enough to know that we love each other no matter what. we're resolved enough to say, you know what, let's continue this conversation in the morning. So I think the commitment to this statement here is just to each other more, that we promise that we will work it out. We promise that it will be wrapped up. But is it possible to always not go to bed angry? Not always, because there are long days. And I just think you guys need to hear, it is like impossible when you have been going or you haven't slept or you've been working so hard to like have a good, clear conversation about a disagreement sometimes when it's 1 a.m. Like there have been times we've both said, you know what, we might just need to go to bed right now, sleep on this and continue the conversation in the morning. So I just wanted to get that one out of the way.
It's like, what's better, call it for what it is at 10 o'clock or keep each other up till 4 a.m. just arguing,
Because we were fighting to not go to bed angry.
And real quick, the context on that, we're not going to unpack the whole thing, but if you're sitting there angry with your next door neighbor, or there's like a business contact and vendor, and you can resolve that before the day's over, and you're just sitting there, that's lazy. Like do the right thing, resolve it before the end of that day or that week, you get it done. But in a marriage context, there are going to be moments like you just described, where you're like, hey, we are committed to each other. We are frustrated with each other. I still love you. I don't like what you're saying, and I don't feel like I like you very much at the moment, but let's call it a pause and reconnect in the morning, go from there. We've definitely had those moments.
Yep. Okay, number 4, you need to find the one. So the whole idea of the one being there's only one person out there in the world for you, it's the actual one that was put in the universe for you. Again, this is where we might lose some people, because I am going to be very honest. I think that God gave us the freedom of choice. We have a lot of choices to make, how we're going to live daily, what we're going to do in private, what we're going to put in our minds. And I also believe we have the choice of who we choose to partner with.
For sure.
And that could be with who you choose to partner with a career. When you choose to work somewhere, you're saying, I partner with this organization. When you choose a spouse, you're saying, I'm going to choose to make this person my lover and partner for the rest of my life. So do I think there is such a thing as the one? No, I don't. I actually think that you choose something that is what you feel is the best option for you. And do I believe that God did have a part of our story? Absolutely. But do I think that there could have been another choice I made and then I would have made that be the best? Yes. Could you have married someone else and made that the best case scenario for you? Yes, because we have free will. So for me, I'm kind of like, don't be stressed if you feel like, oh, I missed that person. I should have married that person. I missed it and now I'll forever be single. No, I think actually there could be a woven story still out there to be made. And even if you had a relationship fall apart, a divorce, a loss, your spouse died, there's possibilities that you could meet another great person and make that person really, really an amazing, powerful relationship, because it's definitely still a choice. And I still choose you every single day.
Right.
So it's not that I just chose you once. Like I choose you every single day to be my spouse. And that has to continually be a choice. Otherwise the relationship won't last. But I don't believe in the concept that there's only one person.
Yeah, that's good. That's a big one. Lots of people wrestle with that. There's another, good relationships are easy. Like if it's right and if it's good.
So number 5,
good relationships are easy. Any relationship has difficulties and challenges and extremely hard moments because it's two human beings involved in it. So that's definitely a myth. We do our best to keep growing and learning and be, the best versions of ourselves, but it's still not easy sometimes. So what are your thoughts on that, Mindy?
Well, I think that you marry someone that continually changes. I know that people say, oh, people don't change. I actually do think they change, but they could be going in different directions. Like somebody could be changing by just getting harder to live with, lazier, and somebody could be changing in the positive, getting healthier, working towards their dreams, financially independent, whatever it might be. I do believe we're always in a state of change, because we can't ignore that every experience we've had every single day is constantly altering us. So like the experiences I had yesterday changed me to someone that I am today. The experiences I'll have today is going to change me to something tomorrow. What's really crazy to think about is you're having experiences out there in the world and I'm having them, and they aren't necessarily congruent. And how we keep showing up every night back at our house is a choice. Are we going to take the experiences you had in the world today and I had in the world today to keep moving forward? Or are we going to take them to, like, you know, to be more hurt or to be more guarded because of the pain we walk through with those experiences? And so I think as we're both changing, my point in all of this is we are we're coming back to our home, like I said, as different people. And we're not going to always slide and without any friction get along, because you're a different person today than you were when I met you in 1999. We're a totally different person. And thankfully, I chose someone with a growth mindset, because that was so important to me, that as you've grown, I've grown too. And so we can keep sharpening each other. But I can't even imagine where I would be if my spouse wasn't in that same growth mindset. And I know I'm talking to somebody that's listening right now. They have continued to grow and their spouse hasn't. And that is not easy. So once you find the one, it doesn't mean that, oh, this is going to be easy. No, it's still going to be hard work. There's still going to be pricklies. There's going to be friction, because every single day we are changing. So we have to change and grow with our spouse, or we will grow away from our spouse. And that's a whole nother problem. Yeah. So it's never been easy. I just want people to know it is fun at moments, but it's so hard.
Yeah. It takes year-round cultivation. It's, you know, the grass is greener where we water it, right? And so it's just like anything. If you just let it sit, it's going to grow backwards. The weeds will come up and things will not go in the direction you want. And so it's not easy, because it takes work and it takes intentionality and it takes saying, I'm sorry. How many times have I had to tell you, and we've had to tell each other, like, I'm sorry, I messed up. Please forgive me. I was wrong. So it takes humility, a certain mindset and determination of, like, we are committed to each other. We're not going to give up on each other. So yeah, obviously it works better if both people in the relationship have that heart and mindset. But it's not easy, even with that, or especially for the person that they're not getting the same from the person in the relationship with them.
And I think that goes a lot to communication. Like, that's where you start talking and you say, hey, I have dreams. I'm working towards them. I really love you and I want to see what's best for you too. What are your dreams? What would you like to work towards? And if they're like, I'm totally fine, say, okay, let's try to work in a way together that would allow me to still pursue what I'm looking for, but also support you in your existence and what you're hoping for. But you have to remember, everybody's always changing. So when you come home at night, stay connected to your spouse, because if you don't know them, you could look up 20 years later and be like, who is this person?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Myth number 6, your partner should complete you.
There's the love songs and the sayings and all the things. You complete me. In our experience, what we've found is so many great things can be added. I mean, you and I are very different in certain aspects, our communication style, our decision-making, how much you can do all at the same time and manage at the same time. It's remarkable. It's a marvel to watch. I have different skills and strengths. So we make a great team. We complement each other really well, like exceptionally well. Again, that's a choice to keep leaning into that, right? Because it could be really easy to get offended and grumpy. However, I think we would both admit we, in our view, don't complete each other. We add so much, and it's so much stronger together. The we of Jordan and Mind Linscombe is beyond words. Like, we're so grateful. We also know that just by the way we were created, that there's a God design in our hearts to desire and long for something more. And in our belief, that's a relationship with the living God who created us, and with Jesus. So you complete and add so much more, but do you complete me as a human made in God's image? Not completely. And so it's a God design for us to be in relationship together. We believe that wholeheartedly. But we're not going to fool ourselves and say, yeah, that's it, everything's all good.
I've decided when I was young and made a decision to be a Christian that all of the spaces in my heart that are broken, that are sad, that are messed up, that have unforgiveness. And the only way to wrap around all of those broken places was with my relationship with God. And I have sincerely, I can say, I have felt his presence since a teenager in my heart, just comforting those places. So when I became an adult and grew into my, myself, it was always with the weakness, bringing it to God and saying, please comfort these broken places. And honestly, I have never looked to you and asked you to complete those broken places or comfort them and meet a need that I know only God can fulfill. Mm-hmm. Do I ask for you to hold me when I'm sad or pray with me when I'm anxious? Absolutely. But I've never expected you, not even once, to just solve all of that sadness. So when I'm at my lowest moment, I have to sit in my car, pray, get alone with God to actually fill those spaces. And then I love that I can come back to you and tell you what he's done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think you've done that as well. And so that's a strength that, like you said, complements one another, but I've never put that undue expectation that honestly only God can do.
Yeah.
Because you're human too. You can't fix that problem. But do you give me the sense at times of comfort? Absolutely. Like I felt God's presence when you've held me, because I feel it in the human sense. I feel comforted, but I never thought you're the one to solve it. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big differentiation when people say, hey, I want this person to maybe not even completely, but to be the one that makes me feel better. Mm-hmm. You can't make me feel better. You can definitely bring joy, a smile to my face, and a physical sense, a tangible sense of love. But the ultimate love is only God fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah. I just keep thinking of that biblical promise, like in our weakness, he is made strong. And so when we recognize that and expect that to come from God as the source of it, things go a lot better. And it's just more realistic than like, oh, my spouse or my partner, my girlfriend, boyfriend needs to complete me. And so I think that's just, that perspective has worked for us so much throughout our nearly 20 years together.
It's no secret by now that Something New is a special place where we believe life is worth celebrating. We come here every day to make sure people feel loved, welcomed, and brought into an experience of a lifetime. You'll see friendly faces, gorgeous gowns, a well-lit showroom to highlight everyone's natural beauty, and strangers becoming friends. It's a wonderful thing to shop somewhere that listens to you and makes you feel like you're the only one that matters in this most beautiful moment of your life. We'd love to have you and your friends find your dress and become a part of the Something New family. Okay, myth number 7. Great partners are never attracted to anyone else. Ooh, this one's touchy.
It's a doozy.
It's a doozy. We are made to be attracted to people, right? Like, I mean, yep. We talk to our kids about this all the time. We say, hey, you guys, we love that you're attracted to people. That's like God designed, but you're just not in a season yet to act on it. Okay. But for human nature, are we attracted to other people at times? I can't sit here and honestly tell you as a married person that I've never not been attracted to someone. I mean, that is very honest.
There's that YouTuber our kids watch that you say he's pretty cute.
I know, Mark Rober. If you hear this in the world, Mark Rober, I do think you're really cute. But what I would say to you is like, there's just never even a serious knock on the door for any of that, because I'm like, no, but my guy is Jordan. Like, I'm committed to him. And I think what's really cool about it is we've made such a promise and such an understand. I never even worry about where you're at in the world, who you're with, what you're doing, because I have such a like knowing that we have this commitment. And I think you feel the same. Like I travel a ton for business. You used to travel all around the world for your previous work for 15 years. I never once worried about what you were doing in your hotel or anything like that, because we had this outstanding commitment to one another. And we're kind of like, it's not worth the sacrifices that will come if we were to act on the attraction to another person.
Yeah. And I want to encourage younger people real quick, because those are choices rooted in how we decided to live our lives, even before we met.
Yeah.
Of like, it's going to be worth it to stay committed to my wife of the future, to my husband of the future. So yeah, I mean, we are sexual beings. It's out there in culture and the media and all the things, but that's where we've tried to talk with our kids. Like, hey, you were created by God, and hey, point blank, you're a sexual being, but let's help coach you and train you on what it means to train your mind, train your heart, train your body, self-control, because you are going to be attracted to people for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. But here's the value, here's the why, here's the beauty of staying committed to your spouse.
Yeah. And I think we got to say really quickly some really simple things we did to make sure there's a Bible verse about not letting the foxes in the garden, and that the foxes are like little teeny things that could literally tear up your whole garden if you let them in. And so there's a whole proverb about it. However, we talked about what could be some of the foxes in our garden that we want to make sure we eliminate. So they're very simple things that you're going to be like, really? They do that? But yes, we do that. So we don't allow ourselves to be in a home or in a room alone with somebody of the opposite gender, just to protect any sort of potential weirdness that could come about. We also say we're not going to ride alone in a car with somebody of the opposite gender without a third person, just to, again, protect any sort of temptation or even just even storytelling. Like, I remember this is a very practical thing, but you told me I'll never drive a babysitter home. Like, you know, when you have babysitters now, we've actually chosen to just only have babysitters that can drive. But prior to that, when we were starting to have babysitters, we said, oh, if we had a 14 or 15-year-old girl that sat over with one of our kids, that we would never have you drive the girl home, because it could be just a dumb story that gets made up about you and there's no witness. You know what I'm saying? And of course you would never do anything, but we just made a decision. Well, why even go there? So we've just done a lot of precautionary measures to protect the illusion of that moment, and then also from the temptation of that moment. And even if it wasn't you, like, we've had people like flirt with us, and we kind of laugh about it. We're like, we just put the like vibe out that we're like, whoa, we're not going there. And so we have to make a decision too, to be like, okay, we're not going to flirt back.
Right.
So that's just another, element here. Okay.
We're not picking up what they're throwing down.
Yes. Myth number 8 is perfect relationships don't have serious conflicts. I don't want to go too long on this one because we already talked about that it's easy. We have a lot of friends and even ourselves that have been through serious conflict and chosen to resolve it and make it happen. So I think that most people do assume that all good relationships come naturally. They
conflict free.
Yeah, or just light conflict. No, I mean, I know people that have had spouses cheat on them and stuck it out, made it work, and are on the other side better for it. I have had and have gained trust even through the process. We've been through childhood cancer. They have crazy statistics about people not staying married that have been through childhood cancer. And we've decided, no, that's not going to be our story.
Right.
You absolutely can have major conflict and still stay married, or stay together.
Well, the quick thing too is too many people grow up maybe at a home where like conflict is bad, or conflict was always behind closed doors. And so that's something we worked through early on of like,
let's just tell them the difference of our two upbringings.
So I observed some conflict, in my family growing up, but it was a little more like taken care of behind closed doors or out of sight or stuffed down. Where in your family was quite open, louder, out there. And so that was a big difference and clashing experience difference coming into our relationship. And so I remember sitting at a coffee with someone, and he said, conflict is not bad. Like, people just have to get that in their heart and their mind. It's not a bad thing. It's actually really healthy to lean into it, but you have to learn how to resolve it. You have to learn how to management and talk through it respectfully and in speaking the truth in love with each other.
And I think it's so important that we model conflict in front of our children.
Yeah.
Doing it behind closed doors does not help anyone.
Yeah. It's a massively important life skill for relationships, for work, for anything.
So, I mean, we try to stay calm and we talk through what we're disagreeing about in front of our kids, because I want them to see, like, when you get married, you're going to also have disagreements, and this is how you talk through it. So we have to model. They will catch what we're doing more than what we talk about.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 9, relationships have to be 50-50. So I know you love to talk about the difference on here.
Yeah. So relationships 50-50, that doesn't work. And we've really tried to lean into a lifestyle from year 5 of our marriage onward, which is 13 plus years now of real life experience through a lot of conflict, ups and downs. We've just realized we have to be 100. Now, does that mean I'm 100% on and excellent and just the best version of myself every day of our marriage? No. But our commitment level, our dedication to sacrifice for each other, oh my goodness, we're going to do a whole other episode sometime on sacrifice and the long play and like delayed gratification, because I'm just grateful that so much of the good things in our life have come from our commitment to sacrifice and realize, oh, it's not Mindy's 49% today, and therefore I'm going to be, grumpy and mean about this. No, like we've just come into it, waking up each day saying, we're all in 100 and 100. And when she's feeling down and low, I'm going to lean in and help out in those moments, because I know she's going to encourage me and help me rise, above the mess or the challenges I might be facing next week.
And it's a lot of honesty. Like, you have to communicate that even though my commitment is 100, there are days where I don't feel 100.
Yep.
So my commitment's 100, but I have to say, hey, I am exhausted. I've been going this or that. And you say, hey, I got the kids tonight or whatever. And I just get to bed early, or vice versa. I might say, hey, I know you're not feeling well. I'm going to get up early and do all the morning. And so we split up how we show up. However, the commitment is always 100. Yeah. Okay. Myth number 10. If you have a good relationship, you should be happy all the time. Like, you should just be happy because you have a good relationship.
Right. Well, that would work if we didn't have emotions and we were emotional beings as well. That would also maybe kind of get bland and boring if you think about it to an extent. But yeah, that's not reality for anybody. I think joy is a choice, like in our hearts. And I'll admit that's something I'm even working on cultivating in our busy life and all that we have going on. That's one of my big things this year. It's like, how do I choose to walk in more fulfillment? How do I choose to create joy? Again, with what we believe, we believe the joy of the Lord is our strength in life that comes from Jesus. But happy all the time, happy related to happenstance and circumstance, all of that can go up and down. But what we've found is you can choose to be joyful. You can choose to be committed. You can choose to recognize you have emotions that are going to vary. But oh my goodness, happy all the time, not so much. That's a myth.
Well, I do want to tell you guys about a thought I had when I was driving this morning on the way here. I was thinking about how it is Valentine's Day, and a lot of people are not necessarily happy today. But I'm thinking about how, a lot of times we get stuck in the last, we use the word last, the last day of school. It's kind of sad, or the last child to go to kindergarten, kind of sad. The last day we felt happy in our relationship, sad. And then I was like, you know what? Anytime you say the word last is also tied to a first. Mm-hmm. So when our last child goes to school next year, full day, everybody's probably going to think, oh, are you so sad? And I don't know why. I'm like, but it's the first day. All of our kids are in school all day. I'm like, woohoo. I'm like, that's really great. So if this is the last, you're thinking about the last relationship you had. Well, what's so cool is that this is the first day you get to really choose to decide what kind of relationship you want going forward. So even though Valentine's Day could be sad, it could be the first Valentine's Day that you got serious about what kind of relationship you want to be in the future. I just think we should switch that focus from last. If we're stuck, it's okay to acknowledge it. And I know I got to feel that pain of last and work through that feeling. However, if we're stuck in last, I just want to challenge people today. Flip that and start saying, but it's also the first of something else.
Mm-hmm.
So what is this the first of as you're listening? And I want you to use that statement today and say that, well, this is the first Valentine's Day that I'm going to focus on the kind of relationship I want to be in for the rest of my life. Yeah. This is the first Valentine's Day I'm going to show my friends how much I love and care about them. This is the first Valentine's Day as a boss that maybe I'm going to reach out to my employees and tell them I really do care about them. This is the first Valentine's Day we're going to have a Valentine's dinner for our kids, because it might be the last one we have without them having a special someone. So I'm just saying, it's just like, it's how you flip it. And it was just all in my mind this morning. It could be the last, but let it also be your first.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay.
So Mindi, I wanted to, as we wrap up.
Well, we have one more myth, our 11th myth.
Oh, go ahead then.
Okay. I'm sorry, but we have to hit this one. Holiday expectations. Being that it's Valentine's Day and it's a holiday, and because there's a lot of holiday expectations, is that you just think when you're in a relationship, holidays will just work out. And there's hopes for, oh, we're going to, still be able to spend Christmases with our family or this and that. But
we'll just do this perfect rotation of his and hers and back and forth.
It's hilarious. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at my young married self that was like, oh, we'll do this one and this family. It's like, it just gets harder because, there's complicated scenarios. Families change, proximity changes, children get added, involvement in sports,
work schedules,
work
limited
demands,
vacations sometimes.
Totally. So I think that there's good hopes and dreams for holidays. But the best thing we ever did was we started talking about them way in advance. Mm-hmm. And we said, so what would make a good Christmas holiday for you? And then you would describe, and then I said, well, this would make a great Christmas for me. And then we would make sure both of those things happened.
And what are we talking about here? Like 6 to 9 months out?
Really? It might be. Well, for Christmas, yeah.
Yeah.
But for like Valentine's, might be the week before.
Yeah. But for those big ones, Thanksgiving,
for the big
Christmas.
ones, yes. Thanksgiving and Christmas, definitely farther in advance. But for Valentine's Day, I think, there's going to be many years of disappointment if there's not a conversation about what would make a good Valentine's Day for you. What would make a good, I loved that yesterday you called me and you said, would you expect or be happy to have flowers? And I was like, no, I don't want you to spend money on flowers. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, but I'd rather not have flowers.
Yeah.
And it's because to me, sometimes I'm like, that's a not important value that I have. Might be a value for someone else. And I do actually love flowers, but certain times I don't need them. So I think they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't need them today. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I wanted for today? I wanted to help people with a podcast that would bring me great joy. I wanted to talk about Valentine's Day. And then I also wanted to have a dinner with our kids around the table in our home tonight to talk about love and Valentine's and connect with them, because I do know that as our kids are getting older, that they might have a special someone in their life starting next year. So I'm like, you know what? This might be the last, but it also might be the first, of the Valentine's Days of special someones. So I am just hoping that as people listen, that they decide to talk to their spouse about what gift expenses look like. What are the expectations in the gift realm? What would be, the expectation of time and how it's allocated, so that when that event comes up, it's a win. It's a home run. You don't leave Christmas break going like, well, I really wish we would have spent this time. Or you don't leave Valentine's going like, oh, he didn't think about me because I didn't get the flowers I wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt very thought of. You gave me a very nice, thoughtful, intentional gift, but it was great because it wasn't what it wasn't a letdown for me, because you had asked me ahead of time, like, what was I expecting? And I appreciate that. And I think that's how all of our holidays have gotten better, because we both ask our questions like, hey, what would make this a good holiday for you?
Yeah, for sure. And we said at the beginning, you mentioned it again, expectations is such an underlying thing with this whole topic of relationships and myths and pressures. So again, if somebody's feeling the pressure, they're wrestling with all of this, as we wrap up, just a couple of encouragements for them. It's like, one, we've got some other great episodes on the Something New show where we talk about communication, getting better, as just being open and honest as couples or any different scenarios. So there's lots of good episodes people can check out. Speak to real quick though, Mindi, the beauty of like having a support structure and a community around you, because that's something like beyond you and I think we've cultivated or we've sought out older people, because that's a key thing. I think too many people go it alone, and they're just like talking to their friends that are the same age who have no experience to really speak into what they're wrestling with. And be like, hey, what should I do? When they're probably talking
to the wrong
person.
Yeah, I don't think you should talk to your peers as much. I mean, maybe just a best friend or something to be like, oh, would you believe this happened? Blah, blah, blah. You know, there's that connectivity that you need in a peer level. But for advice, so the peer carries your pain with you as they can relate. But for the advice and wisdom of how to respond, I always sought to the older, to the wiser, to the people who had gone ahead.
Yeah.
So I don't think people should look to the peer for advice. Look to them for support and for carrying the load because they're in it with you and they're probably going through the same thing. The relatability is very powerful when another human can say, me too.
Yep.
But when you go to someone 20 years, 30 years advanced and farther along in their marriage, farther along in their relationship, their business, their parenting, whatever it might be, and you see some of their results, you say, okay, tell me what you did. What would you do in my situation at this time? And so I think that's a very good point you're making about the community. Yeah. Okay. I want to wrap it up because I think people want to go on a Valentine's date because it's Valentine's Day. Even if you're going on a Galentine's with your friends, it's awesome. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this myth-busting episode of relationships. And we hope that this year you have a great year full of love, full of clear expectations, great communication, and a lot more positivity when it comes to those first. See you next time on the Something New Show. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, review, and share with a friend. Also, follow The Something New Show on Instagram and Facebook. If you want a fuller experience, watch the show on YouTube to help you create a life worth celebrating.